Sorry you came
Really, I
in
haven't
like
said
during
much.
like a prolonged interview section.
Yeah, I didn't know what the format was. I came in and people asked me, people asked me questions, which I'm used to. But then other people started talking. Most of my audience was aware of the context behind what's going on because I talked about it last stream, and also I put a video up on my second channel, and also put a short up on my main channel. So I feel like a decent amount of saturation has taken place. I probably should have been, because I checked the schedule on the Google Doc, and it was like, okay, by the time I came in, it should be unscheduled talking time. But I'm a dummy, and I forgot that schedules never actually work in real life. So they would still be doing
Yeah,
their thing. I should have just held off a little bit. All the same, I'm
it's
really
okay.
glad you guys are doing this. I know I've been uncharacteristically quiet. It's because I'm like abysmally sleep deprived. Um, but I'm really happy to hear that a lot of good work is going on down there. I feel like I have successfully imparted onto my audience the importance of caring about this. I've been trying to talk more about the weight of local elections and the necessity of keeping things on lock with that. You like here's an example, right? Hold on, didn't like this just happened. Um the Stop Woke Act got stopped, didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
Was that
It
by a
got
federal,
paused.
or was that a
That
federal
was
or
a
state
local
court?
judge.
Yeah.
Pretty sure.
So much, because like at the end of the day, we have our laws, we have our constitution, but they're all irrelevant if the judges aren't on our side, right? Like, sure, law stands with us, but if state legislators don't like us, then they can change the law. And you know what? If what they want to do is unconstitutional, well then it's like rights. You can talk about whether rights come from the state or from God, but only the state is capable of enforcing them. You might think they come from God, but meaningfully, if you have a right to not be murdered, it's the state that's stepping in, not God, to help you out. And
Uh,
likewise, your
I
fundamental legal rights are protected by judges.
I was wrong. It was a federal judge, but
No!
I believe it was stopped by a local judge first, and then it got
I take
overruled.
it back. It doesn't matter. Local elections don't matter. They can all go red for all I care. No, like really, obviously though, like because yeah, if it's stopped in a local court and it gets challenged, it goes up. You want as
Yeah.
many people at as many levels as possible. Um, and if you can't do that, like eventually things are going to hang up at the point where you can't go any further. You want like total saturation of um, you know, respectable, agreeable candidates.
Yeah, well, and the part of the problem too is that in a lot of states, Wisconsin isn't necessarily the norm. In a lot of states, judges are just appointed. You know,
Mhm.
um, especially like when it reaches like the state supreme court level. Um, so it's actually pretty interesting that we are able to use democracy as a way to like try and improve the court system. It's not a usual thing.
Yeah, the idea of electing a judge has always been kind of funny to me. Like electing a sheriff. The average person really just has no idea. The only thing you really get is what party they're aligned with. But if that's the case, like they're just going to be appointed under a different system. Under directly electing them, like what is a person going to do? Examine a judge's like jurisdictional precedent? Like they're gonna well, I think their reasoning on this case back in 1997 was really really smart. So I think they'd be best for our, like, obviously not. Um, it's like a technocratic thing, right? For the same reason that we don't like elect the head of the CDC. It seems kind of odd that we would elect judges, since that is technically also like a expertise based profession. But I guess the law is much more vibes based than virology, so who knows?
Well, it also works in our favor in this one instance, so I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
I know that some of the logic back in so a lot of elections of judges and so on came out of the progressive era, and it was a sort of anti-corruption politics that maybe if you elect them, they won't be quite as like they won't do quite as much graft as because there'll be more public eyes on them. But
Yeah, that worked out
unfortunately,
great.
a lot of the research seems to show that elected judges, particularly partisan elected judges, are way harsher on criminals and only in election years. So it mostly seems to be that people just don't research. They just want to go for the one who's hard on crime, and like their voters are morons, unfortunately.
Yeah, because the
Um,
average voter thinks that judges and police's jobs are to be like anti-crime auras. And the more tough the cop and the more tough the judge, they fix crime by being tougher on it. The fact that like nobody, like the average voter doesn't critically examine the concept of tough on crime. Like we have the most people in prison per capita and absolute, I think. here in the States. And then it's like, okay, well, we can fix this problem. We just need more prison centers. It's like, okay, well, this is like a feedback loop. Like, this is recursive. What do you mean tough on crime? What does that mean? And of course, they don't know. Like, they just, yeah, pretty dumb.
Well, it's just on top of that, like there's it like by having an election, it's kind of like a beacon calling like, up, it's time for the election. Time to funnel all of the money into the race. And because you're judges and you have the ability to like, kind of enforce the law to a degree, um, well, you're no one's really gonna like call you on being corrupt in our current system. Like
Yeah, probably not. You'd
in
have to be pretty wildly corrupt for that to be like an actual political impediment.
Yeah, no, it's only when like it gets to the point where was that guy in Louisiana, right? Or maybe not Louisiana, but he was selling like a seat. He was the
Oh, you
governor.
mean Blagojevich? Yeah, Lagoya. Yeah, he's in Illinois. Yeah,
Illinois. Okay.
he got clapped by the FBI.
Yeah, like it has to be that level of blatant for something to happen, you know?
Yeah, he was like literally going around, I think, being like, "Hey, Obama gave up his Senate seat. Who wants a free senator seat?
Yeah.
I would do that.
Make
That
a
sounds
donation
based.
to my campaign."
I mean, we literally had
But
the
he was a
Donald Trump.
Democrat, so it was okay.
Oh yeah, that's based.
I agree.
We literally had Trump do the quid pro quo shit, and like that impeachment didn't even go through. It's not like Republicans cared. So yeah, it's all like partisan line stuff. People will always excuse corruption if they feel like it politically benefits. Actually, maybe liberals won't. No, I don't think liberals do, because liberals are so proceduralist. Liberals actually care about corruption like for its own sake, even if corruption is beneficial to them. They're still bothered by it often, I think. Whereas with Republicans, obviously, it's purely partisan with like no other qualifier.
Do you think they actually care about the corruption though, or do you think they care about like the aesthetic of the corruption?
Well,
Like how
probably the aesthetic, right? But like there's an overlap there, because for a lot of people, politics is just the aesthetic of achieving the goals they want. Like you have to be pretty like deep in the well to look past the aesthetic of some political goal and be able to actually touch on like the fundamentals of what's causing it. Like if a liberal is in favor of feeding the homeless, they might aesthetically adopt laws that help with that, like really bad laws for like, hey, yeah, you get fed if you go to this homeless shelter, and it's like really abusive, and you get kicked out during the daytime hours, and you have to show like 10 filled CVs every day, or you get kicked out. But like to the liberal, that's still like an aesthetic expression of a desire to help homeless people, even if it doesn't really.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's I'm also just sorry that the organizing event for this, for getting canvassers on the ground, is literally like the last day to sign up is today. Like tomorrow is like the last day on the ground over there. But
Listen,
that's
okay, it's Sunday. We knew you guys weren't going to be doing anything on Sunday. It's not like we're religious at all. So get out there, use your Sunday to go meet new friends.
exactly. But if I had had like a week or two more time, it would have been a lot better.
Well,
We
that's
could have
okay.
peer
There's
pressured
always
more people.
there's always something to focus on. Besides, we're still doing a
Exactly.
lot of good work. You can't hold yourself to too high of a standard with regards to being conscientious and present for every political activity you could be taking in America, because this country is kind of coming down around our ears a little bit. There's
I don't
a
know,
lot of work
Vaush.
to do.
I've been looking at Twitter, and there are some people on there telling me that I'm not doing enough at all times, at every single moment of every day.
Yeah, that's true. It's like this is why we need to embrace professional managerial political advocacy, where every single advocate gets a sneering manager to scream at them through a bullphone if ever they like poop for a bit too long, or they have like a bit of a breakfast that's maybe a little bit pricier. It's like, well, you could have donated that money. If you'd pooped faster, then you'd have more time to phone bank, and this is how we'll achieve communism, I assume.
It's true. If only Hassan hadn't bought that house, we would have had socialism by now.
That's true. Ah, God, if only. What a dream.
Vaush, have you ever read the
Right?
unfinished intro to
Read.
Acid Communism?
No.
um what's his name? Mark Fisher calls that the harsh Leninist superego, the idea that like you are solely committed to the cause. There's no time to give money to the homeless. You step over them on your way to your 200-person communist meeting, okay? Because you need to win the revolution. And it's bullshit. It doesn't work. And it
Well,
just makes you have a
people
life of
love
suffering and feel miserable.
well, people love jerking off about that, but we all know that in reality, like, political participation is a mixed bag. People contribute what they can. It's all well and good to say like, oh, well, you could give 110%, but like idiots have been saying that about every human endeavor ever. You know, oh, you can't get a job, well, try harder. Oh, you can't do this, try. Like, obviously, it's not actually the only reason for it's the same reason Catholics do what they do. The point is like shaming and guilt, right? No actual good is born of it. The only point is to make people feel bad. It's usually like an oppositional strategy. It's pretty objectively settled. Like, I think they did this for like weight loss, but like you don't make a person lose weight by shitting on them all the time or making fun of them for being fat. You just be like encouraging and supportive. And likewise, if you're encouraging and supportive with somebody, say, wanting to get into canvassing, you can be like, hey, yeah, it's not going to be that bad. We should give it a try. Maybe we could do it together sometime. And that'll always be more effective than like literally any other approach.
I'm
I
not
just
gonna
want to
lie.
jump in.
Oh.
Oh, I just want to jump in too. Voss, you misspoke. You have read All Theory, so you
No.
didn't read that.
Yeah, well, I mean he said that was written by a guy who was a fisher. I mean, that's not theory. That's just like the idle ramblings of a you know of a fisherman.
So I feel like one of the most to Vaush's point here, I feel like one of the most effective things that was said repeatedly on this stream was like multiple people just pointing out how much fucking fun they had, like showing up and like I know my audience. I know you guys. I know that you guys want to show up and like play Super Smash Brothers with somebody. I know that you guys want to play like obscure board and card games. And they talked about being able to do that while canvassing. And if you want to make friends and play like I don't know, Settlers of Catan with all the expansions, that look, it's a perfect opportunity for you to meet people, okay?
Oh yeah,
That's all I'm
it's great
saying.
for social
Nerds.
actualization. It's very very important for that. You know, especially in some communities, it's pretty difficult to find friends with shared interests if you're a leftist because that can, you know, especially if you're in areas that doesn't have like a lot of queer representation because there's a big overlap between those two. So any excuse to canvas or get out there, especially if what $40 for night's lodging and food, that's so good.
Yeah.
To make potentially lifelong friends, I think that's a really good investment.
Yeah. No, it's the situation that or that not the situation, but like the conditions that like Progress Libs set up for the canvassing on the ground here. I hope is something that gets replicated again and again and again because like having that infrastructure is so critical so that people can just like show up and roll up their sleeves and get to work without having to worry about all of the logistics of like living in a place that they aren't, located in,
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see more of what they're going to.
Listen, okay. Our goal is to make Wisconsin a blue state, not a swing state. All right, that's what we want.
I mean, hey, if you guys can get those that gerrymandering undone, I feel
Listen,
like
okay. If
without
we
the
can pick up
gerrymandering, it'd be
those couple of extra seats after we ungerrymander, after we win by a landslide, by a 40, I don't know how many county landslide or whatever. What's the Tim Pool meme? I don't know. But yeah, that landslide, right?
oh god.
Listen,
You just reminded me that Tim Pool thought Donald Trump was going to win 50 states.
oh yeah, the
Only
49.
48 to 49.
No. There's one of the clips in the video is him saying maybe even 50.
Okay, that was a
maybe
high
even
estimate,
50
okay?
state
Let him share the
landslide. It well, wait. No, it would have been 49 because there's no way DC would have ever voted. He must have misspoke there. There's no he would have actually thought that DC would have voted.
It's Tim Pool.
Oh yeah, I guess so.
Um, yeah, no,
But yeah, we want to hyper partisanize Wisconsin to blue to become cool, to become one of the Midwestern economites.
y'all are gonna ungerrymander Wisconsin and then just copy Chicago's gerrymander onto Wisconsin and go the reverse. 40 years of immortal democratic rule.
True.
God
Well,
willing.
that's what we want, okay? Hopefully,
We
but
want
it without the governors getting arrested. That's
we
what we
want
don't want. We don't want the 3 governors in a row getting arrested. That's
we
what
want
we don't want.
we want Immortan Joe, but with Biden.
Yes.
It's
Um,
true.
yeah, guys, remember when Florida was a swing state? That was cool.
I remember people saying that.
I
That
mean,
was
there was at
nice.
least potential for it, right? People were talking about it. Those were the days.
It was like a kinda like wishy-washy area, where, you wasn't always like Republican-esque areas. Now it's like you just meet weird Republicans everywhere in Florida.
Yeah. You guys remember? I feel like there's a story that's really indicative of that, and maybe it's like the moment that Florida changed from like like a wishy-washy swing state, maybe, to like Republican. There was like a war that broke out at like a nursing, like a 50+ community like nursing home thing. Do you guys remember hearing about this? Where like different political factions like emerged, like started fighting each other.
I don't think I remember this
No.
now.
Oh god. Uh yeah, no, it was like people were actually like getting injured in this, you know, retirement community.
You know more Florida lore than me, okay?
That's just cuz Florida's a weird place where like on any given day you'll like open up the news and it'll be like, yeah, Florida man inhales 50 pounds of bath salts and fights a tiger before eating raw human flesh that he bought from a guy.
King.
Florida war. Um. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. No, there was a story about this from 2020, in the Daily Beast. Pro-Trump retirement community, The Villages, is descending into civil war. Um. So it's just all about how
No,
this
maybe I do
retirement
remember
community.
that. Okay, I think maybe I vaguely remember that. I mean, they're old people; they have to have something to do. We're going to be seeing a lot of retirement home civil wars over Trump DeSantis. That'll be pretty fun. You know, we're going to hear shots ringing out from retirement homes. Um,
Listen, but Florida is a temporary problem. It's gonna be underwater soon, and then we won't have to worry about them.
that's definitely true.
Oh, okay. Well, actually, wait. There's a update on the situation. Apparently, The Intercept ran a news story on February 5th about how the political civil war in the Villages ended with a 72-year-old political prisoner, which seems insane. I don't know anything about that one, but I don't know. I'm gonna find out. Um,
Listen, okay? This is how smart the Midwest is. We draw all the Republicans to Florida, okay? We go by passing base stuff like the repealing the right to work stuff, the fucking free food. That makes Republicans angry and they're like, "Oh, it's too woke. I got to move to the base states like Florida." And then, in a couple years they're going to be underwater. And then yeah, it's solved. See? Easy. We don't have to worry.
bada bing, bada boom. Um, so Vaush, I know you were really like big into progressive victory in the midterm.
Well,
Um,
yeah, I mean, they're pretty attached to my community.
yeah, and I also was organizing with them
Yeah,
through the
you did a lot of
midterm.
good work with them.
Thank you. And I was just wondering, like, because we're ramping up going into like 2024, right? Like that's where like all of the races after this Wisconsin race are heading. Um, like how important do you view it right now to start getting involved so that you're like a seasoned veteran? Because I feel like that's what I want to like encourage my community, right? Like become the Giga Chads of like grassroots political organizing now so that you're ready when shit hits the fan next year.
I mean, it's pretty important to stay engaged the entire time. I don't know. At the end of the day, people are going to do what's convenient to them. I think the best you can do isn't to sell it as some kind of like boot camp, but rather just try to emphasize the importance of every individual cause as something that could be fun and informative and engaging, and hope those efforts like accumulate, like you want, it's like, if people's positions and behaviors are driven largely out of convenience, which unfortunately they are, at least to a large extent, then we have to assume that like radical political engagement is the product of like a radical level of convenience. And I think, you can build that convenience. You can make it convenient by providing the financial and the social tools necessary to get people on board with that. And I think just keeping that attitude is a good way to maximize the outcomes that you're going to get for getting people out there.
Yeah, I guess I guess I hear what you're saying. Like there are diminishing returns for kind of like banging the drum of like this is this is an emergency.
Yeah, well, you can kind of see this from like fundraising, for example. This is the reason
Mhm.
why I only do fundraising streams very infrequently, and why I get really big numbers when I do. It's not just because of the size of my community; it's also because you razzle dazzle it with spectacle, you make it fun. You're doing your big video games, whatever. You try to keep it lighthearted during the actual stream, and most importantly, you don't overwhelm people. I get emails, DMs, whatever messages asking for people, people asking me to show off their GoFundMe's or Kickstarters or whatever all the time, multiple times a day. But the problem is, and no matter how hard it may be or how much it like may suck for me, if you do that, if you're like, okay, well, here's like the 5 GoFundMe's, like everyone look at this, then look at that, then look at this, then look at that, then look at this, and donate if you can. More people will, and eventually you're doing like 50 GoFundMe's a stream, and not one of those GoFundMe's will get a single dollar. None of them, because now you have burned out everyone's interest. You've made it entirely unexceptional, and now it's just like a kind of dreary and upsetting part of the stream where like people will really like furtively try to get their thing showed, and then they show it. It's like, oh, now I'll get some money to help with my ankle surgery, and they don't get any money because they're sandwiched in between like 50 other people. So unfortunately, temperance, discipline, and like a good attitude are really important for getting charitability out of people. uh you know
Yeah.
it's I mean, hey, real life volunteer organizations know this. One of the reasons why they so emphasize community in their approach is because they know that if every day is a grind, people aren't going to go for it. Volunteer orgs could focus on providing like 8-hour volunteer workday slots for ultra dedicated people, but they don't. They try to emphasize like once or twice a week for a couple hours because they know that as long as it slots in well with other people's schedules, they're more likely to keep with it.
No, it makes a whole lot of sense. Like I did I was one of the people behind Extra Life. I don't know if any of you people heard about that.
Mhm.
It's a charity. It's part of Children's Miracle Network hospitals. And they raise money on like through streaming for like sick and injured kids.
Mhm.
And I worked with them for like 10 years ish, 8 years, 10 years, somewhere in there.
Mhm.
And yeah, no, what you're saying is 100% correct, especially when it comes to like people volunteering their labor and their time and their money. Um, like you gotta there's gotta be a little bit more in it for them, even when it's like the best case scenario, which is where like, oh, you are directly helping like sick and injured kids. Like even when it's the best cause imaginable with no like real moral conflicts in it, like you still gotta moderate how much you're asking of people, and
Because there's
the
always an
manner in
infinite
which,
amount everyone could be doing, and there's
yeah,
reasons why they don't.
yeah, why aren't you selling your house in order to help kids?
And if you try to get people to do that, obviously it wouldn't take. Um, it's just a very basic like human organization skill. And anyone who wants to succeed and do as much as they can will abide by it. It's why like every volunteer org and every charity org ever tries to hold themselves to these principles.
Yeah,
Well,
understandable.
apart from me sitting here silent for the first 20 minutes, which I didn't mind because I'm so sleepy, I basically just like sat here and engaged in I was about to say engaged in mitochondria. What's the thing that plants do? Um, photosynthesis.
Photosynthesis.
That's right, photosynthesis. But apart from that, it's always a delight to talk to you.
Yeah,
Danil,
baby.
oh, Danil's angry because there's not water in the fountain. Hold on.
Oh,
No, wait. I'll say here, Danil, I'll get you water. Okay, there we go. I got him. He's captured. It's always a delight to talk to you. And I'm sorry that I jumped in
Likewise.
late, by the way. I expected that I'd be able to much earlier, but my D&D campaign thing got shifted,
Oh,
and it had been canceled the past 3 weeks, so I thought, like, okay, I'll just move stream back a bit.
It's okay. I had like 24 people lined up for this event, and like yesterday was St. Patrick's Day when we got like all the finalized details, and like of course everyone was like, I don't know, drunk, and then they woke up with hangovers, and like half of them pulled out. So many people pulled out, more than half.
Naturally,
So
fair
I
and
appreciate
reasonable.
you showing up.
Of course. And hopefully we'll talk again in the near future. I mean, there's plenty
Yeah.
of electoral stuff to do after all.
Oh, for sure. And anytime. And if you want to be involved in another stream that I will organize myself, we're going to be doing 2 more for Wisconsin coming up here. So if you have any interest in that, let me know.
I might pop in briefly to those, if for no other reason than because it's a good excuse to remind my chat that they can, in fact, make a difference. Just message me and keep in touch.
Okay. Yeah, will do.
Be well.
You have a good one. Get good sleep. Get some good food.
Bye-bye.
Bye.